we do have multiple crews out and about working multiple shifts, and we have Russell Haythorn out. He is on Highway 66 north of Firestone, and we see that water level out there, Russell.
Oh, my goodness, look at that. Russell, what's going on right there now?
Well, Mike and Ann, this is the St. Vrain River, and as you can see, it is well outside of its banks right now. We are in Weld County, and this is Highway 66. You can see as John pans over the river, just well outside of its banks. Again, this is Highway 66 in Weld County. This river is, for all intents and purposes, this time of year more like a creek. It's just a trickle, usually. But today, obviously, it looks more like a washing machine down there with so much water. There are just a number of rapids, and this thing is really raging. This is Highway 66 right here. This is actually a new bridge that is under construction. It's open on the northbound side. They're still finishing the southbound side. Obviously, it's closed right now. CDOT has closed this bridge on both sides. We are west of the city of Platteville, or the town of Platteville, and north of Firestone, just to give you some perspective. And you can see west of here, just beyond the bridge, the St. Vrain is outside of its banks and it's supposed to cross under the bridge, obviously, but instead it is crossing over Highway 66 on the west side. There's actually a car into the creek over there. You can see a state trooper staged on the west side of this bridge. He's in the eastbound lanes. And then if you follow Highway 66, obviously this runs right into Lyons to the west. So all of this water fell in the Lyons area, in the Boulder area that we've been talking about for hours and days now, and it is now catching up to Weld County. You can see just how much it's exceeded its banks here. I mean, this is a farm. We're looking at a pasture here, and you can see a lean-to or a shed right there that's open on the south side, and it's completely underwater. The state trooper on this side of the closure, who we just talked to, you can see down here, John, if you pan over to the east, he actually told us that he's been gauging the water levels by using a sign that's on a post over here, and he said that he's been staged at this location for 10 hours now, and he said that he's actually watched the water recede a bit, about 6 inches from his watermark on that sign on the post right over here. But again, this is the St. Vrain River, which is, if you look at most maps, it's called a creek at this point. And this all flows into the South Platte. So those problems that you were talking about in Greeley, the confluence of the St. Vrain and the South Platte is in Evans. So all of this water is moving its way toward Greeley and toward Evans right now. And again, this is just remarkable for this time of year. It's usually nothing more than a trickle, and now it's a raging river. We were tweeting out earlier, my photographer John and I, and we called it the Mighty St. Vrain because it's certainly unbelievable.
Russell,
Nothing that I've ever seen, and I grew up in Weld County.
That was my next question, Russell, was about growing up in Weld County. Have you talked to any of your family? Are they affected by this, the flooding that we've seen so far today?
No, none of my family. They're in Eaton, which is north of Greeley, about 7 miles, and the South Platte actually flows through Greeley and then off to the east, eventually out to the eastern plains. So they haven't been affected by any of this water, thankfully.
And when we were just talking to the Weld County Sheriff's Office, they said pretty much roads are impassable around Milliken, Evans, and Greeley. What was your drive into the area like?
Yeah, so we left the station, which is south of downtown, at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and it took us, I'm not sure of the time right now, but it took us well over an hour to get to this location. It's 4:55, so we arrived at this location about 20 minutes ago, so it was an hour and a half just to get from downtown Denver to this location. As you guys are well aware, I-25 is actually closed in both directions. According to the electronic message boards that we were looking at, we were making our way northbound on I-25, and we were diverted at Highway 7, which is just to the north of E-470. And at that point, we started taking back roads so that we could get to this river to show you some sort of vantage point. And we eventually made our way to this location. We came up through Dacono and then through Frederick and then Firestone and eventually to this location. But obviously what you're seeing here is the destruction of this water making its way downstream. A lot of homes, as you mentioned, now underwater in the Greeley area. And of course, as you can see, farmland underwater here. And these crops were just coming to fruition. You know, the corn was just finishing, the beans were just finishing, and now some of these farmers are going to lose those crops, which is certainly sad to see.
Devastating.
You have family that's involved in the farming industry, so you know this very well. This has got to be a very tough situation in which they've been, as we were talking about a little earlier, they needed water for so long, trying to get water, special permits to get water in there for their crops. Now they're going to lose them, it looks like, and I guess that's what happens, right? I mean, these crops are gone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, during the hot summer months, you pray for rain. In July and August, that's what you want to help you out with irrigation. And this time of year, it's just really unnecessary, especially this amount of water. And I was talking to my father-in-law. He grows carrots in the Greeley area, and they've lost some beans because of all this wet weather this past week. And they've lost some other crops as well. So this is not what farmers need this time of year, and we usually don't see this kind of weather in September. Obviously, this is, you know, they're calling it the 100-year flood, and this amount of water is really not what farmers need this time of year. They needed it a month ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah, a once in a lifetime, I think, I hope, is what we're experiencing here. I want to talk more about the water levels, because when we were talking to the Weld County Sheriff's Department, they were anticipating that the water level would crest at about 6 o'clock. But you're saying from the officer who had been staging there for the last 10 hours that he thought the water level was actually coming down a bit?
Yeah, the trooper is actually using his own watermark on a sign that's on a post. I think John may even be able to zoom into it. John, it's just beyond these concrete barriers here on right on this fence line here, and there's a white sign right there on that post, and that's what the trooper is using. Can you see that? Just beyond the concrete barriers. Yeah, you're on it. So he's using that white sign, and he said that when we arrived here about 25 minutes ago, he said that the water was at the top of that sign that you're looking at right in the middle of your screen. There's a white sign there on that post, and he said that the water was at the top of that. So if you gauge the water levels by looking at that sign, and based on what the trooper was telling us, it's come down about, I would estimate that's 6 to 12 inches maybe, that it's now receded in the past 10 hours that he's been here. So hopefully that's a little bit of good news for the people living in this area as the water does begin to recede. But again, as you look at the St. Vrain River here, it's still flowing like, you know, it typically doesn't this time of year.
Absolutely. Let me ask you two questions very quickly, one personal and one just an observation. The personal question, of course, is being raised in that area of Weld County, generally speaking, have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, I haven't. I have never seen a September quite like this. You know, earlier in the month, we actually had record heat. I think it was just a week ago today that we had a record-setting temperature in Denver anyway, 97 degrees or 98 degrees. And now we're looking at flooding from, you know, a 100-year flood. So obviously, Mike, I've never seen anything like this, and I'm guessing you guys haven't either.
Well, no, we haven't, and I guess I'm wondering too about your family there. I mean, this has got to be, when you have family that's in the farming business, that's a pretty tight community. I mean, everybody kind of knows everybody in that business, and this has got to be devastating for a lot of those farmers.
Yeah, certainly if they start to lose crops because of this storm, it will be devastating. Some crops are uninsurable. You know, produce isn't insurable, so you know, for carrots, cabbage, those kinds of things, because the yields are so high per acre, a lot of times farmers can't get insurance for those. So those are just a total loss. Now, if you're looking at grains and that sort of thing, they can get insurance for those. So if they lose those kind of crops along the South Platte or the St. Vrain, those are typically insurable. So you just hope that you know, they can get insurance on those crops. We're looking at some fields off in the distance here to the east of here, and the corn is still standing, and it looks to be in pretty good shape as long as it's not right up against the riverbank here. So that should be salvageable once it dries out, but you really never know with a storm like this.
And we're continuing to look at these live pictures from Weld County, or Russell Haythorn is standing and looking at these pictures from Air Tracker 7. And we are continuing our coverage here of Colorado flooding just because of these devastating pictures that we are seeing right now. You see a boat out in Weld County right now. This is east of Greeley, where we have seen the water levels rise just in the last couple of hours. And they are literally saying that roads are impassable in Milliken, Evans, and Greeley right now as we are watching this boat move in as they do some search and rescue.
We thank Russell Haythorn for sharing those personal observations about the crops and what kinds of issues these people are facing. We're looking at a boat being pushed along there by some volunteers who are trying to help out in this area east of Greeley. But obviously the issues are going to be far beyond some wet carpet and some housing panels that may become a little loose because of the wetness there. This has been quite a day where we're getting a view, a big overview of what's taken place over these past few days here in Colorado with this flooding. We heard from the Larimer County Sheriff, we heard from the Boulder County Sheriff, and as we're looking at this video, we'll give you a quick recap of what we know right now.
This is County Road 45 in Weld County, and again, I can't reiterate how much water has just moved into Greeley in the Weld County area in just the last couple of hours. I know evacuation orders have been put in place, but this has become a very scary situation and very quickly, and they're anticipating the water to crest at about 6 o'clock. But in the meantime, as Mike was saying, that we've been able to get a bigger picture here. We know that 4 people have died, 3 of them in Boulder County, 1 to the south in the Colorado Springs area. But we are focusing on Greeley today because we're anticipating this water surge, and it is now moving in and taking over the areas. Highway 85 is closed, underwater at various parts. Anything close to the South Platte River, the roads were just inundated, but the waters have taken over beyond that.